What kind of country has a town called Hell, has a coastline of 63,000 miles, and knighted a penguin? You guessed it, Norway. Today I'm diving headfirst into the breathtaking world of Norway, and trust me, you're going to want to stick around for these Norway travel tips. I'm going to give you the full lowdown on everything you need to know to make your Norway travel smoother than a fjord at dawn. P.S. Got any burning questions about planning your trip? Drop them in the comments. I'm Juliana Barnaby of The Discoveries Of, here to guide you with practical travel tips to help you plan your next adventure. Let's get to it. So about Norway, first off, it's one of the safest countries to travel in the world. It's basically the gold standard, super safe, stunningly beautiful, and absolutely tons to see. What about language? Norwegian is the official language, but English is spoken pretty much everywhere. I always think it's nice to learn at least a couple of words in the local language though. Hey, when's the best time to travel to Norway? Let's talk regions. Norway might be one country, but she's long and has more personalities than your favourite TV show cast. As such, the country has different climates and topographies within the different regions. I'm not going to go into a crazy amount of detail here, but knowing the differences is the key to planning your dream trip. In the south, the coastal areas like Kristiansand have a temperate climate with mild winters and cool summers, the perfect backdrop for lots of kayaking, island hopping and small town life. Moving to Western Fjord or Fjord Norway, so destinations like Bergen, Flam, Stavanger and Alesund have a marine climate with cool summers, mild winters and lots of rain. Go for incredible fjords and mountains. In fact, it is really one of the most spectacular destinations in the world. Meanwhile, up in the north, places like Tromsø, Lofoten Islands, Vesterålen, and even further north, Svalbard, experience subarctic conditions with cold winters and short, cool summers. The coastline isn't as cold as you think though, thanks to the Gulf Stream. You'll get midnight sun in the summer and polar nights in the winter. This region also has the best northern lights opportunities and incredible landscapes. Check out my Northern Lights in Tromsø video up top to see exactly what I mean. Then there's Eastern Norway, and this includes Oslo and Lillehammer. This region has a more moderate climate with distinct seasons including warm summers and cold winters. It's home to the capital and there's lots of culture and art, and like the rest of the country, great hiking opportunities in lush valleys and national parks. Now that's out of the way, when should you visit Norway? Summer seems like the obvious option, particularly for a fjord trip. If you are travelling in the summer, I recommend early June or the second half of August. In late August, the Norwegians are back in school and at work. Quite a few tourists have also headed home, so the roads are a bit quieter, but the weather should mostly be pleasant enough. The beginning of September is even quieter. June is also a great option with lots of daylight, particularly early June, which is still quiet. July and early August are hella busy. If you want to experience the midnight sun in Norway, well, it varies depending on the location, but at the cusp of the Arctic Circle, you'll get the midnight sun from the 12th of June to the 1st of July, while further north in Tromsø, it's the 20th of May to the 22nd of July. How about the polar night, when the sun never rises? Again, this varies depending on the location, but in Tromsø, it's November 27th to January 15th. And to see the northern lights, you'll need to travel between late September and late March. Whenever you're traveling though, ensure you book trains, ferries, hotels and flights well in advance, as things do book out quite quickly, particularly in peak months. Next up, let's look at transport and getting around. You need to think about your itinerary first. If you're visiting bigger cities, it won't be a problem with trains and buses, but if you want to go off the beaten track, a car is definitely best. However you decide to do your trip, you can often do parts of the trip by plane to save yourself a bit of time. Norwegian has frequent sales where you can snap up a ticket from say Oslo to Bergen for €30 and fly there in under an hour to get more time exploring the coast. The same thing goes for going north, so taking a flight to Bodø, Harstad or Tromsø saves you a lot of time that you can instead use in the destination. It does all depend, however, on the type of trip that you want and how much time you've got. Widerøe is another good airline for internal flights. There is Uber and Bolt in some cities as well as taxis, but they are all expensive. Public transport is generally the cheapest way to get around. I get it, it can be confusing working out how to get from A to B, but enter.no is a national travel planner that allows you to plan your trips and see which buses and trains you need to take. You can also use the Fjord One app for fjord ferry routes and timetables. Here are a couple of tips for hiring and driving in Norway too. So for cheap but okay rented cars, I recommend Rent-A-Wreck. They have older cars that most common rental companies and are therefore a bit cheaper. That said, don't rent a car while you're staying at Oslo. Parking in the city is difficult to find and very expensive. Public transport is cheaper, faster and safer. Norway does have strict drink driving laws, so the legal limit is 0.02% of blood alcohol and applies to the driver of any motorised vehicle. There are also very harsh penalties. Ensure you've got your winter tyres on your car during the season, and you can use the Vegvesenet website for traffic information and road closures. So consider renting a camper van to travel between your destinations. You travel on your own time, you can stop anywhere. Wild camping is allowed almost anywhere in Norway, we'll get to that later, and you'll be able to access areas where public transport is practically non-existent. What about your itinerary? Let's talk about that. I'm not going to go into a mad amount of detail here because a things to do in Norway video is a whole separate video, but here are some top tips for when you're planning your Norwegian travel itinerary. First of all, seeing Norway takes about 2 to 3 weeks if you rush it. You can drive the whole of Norway in 4 days, but then you'd be driving from north to south or south to north, and where would be the fun in that? Ensure that you do have a plan, but don't be afraid to add in places spontaneously. If you want a fuss-free experience, Norway in a Nutshell tours are actually quite good for pre-planned, self-guided itineraries around the best of the country. They also have destination-specific tours like Lofoten, where you can only explore that particular destination. The company takes care of getting you all the tickets you need, and the tours are really easy to follow. Let's dip into a couple of quick sample 10-day itineraries. So number 1, you can start in Oslo, Stavanger, Pulpit Rock, Bergen, Flam, Hjell, Garange and Trollstigen, and then Alisund. It is tight, but you'll see a lot in a short period of time. Sample itinerary 2 is an Arctic road trip from Tromsø, Senja, Vesterålen and down to Lofoten. And prepare yourself for absolutely stunning views. Oslo is basically the central hub for the train system in eastern Norway, so if you don't mind taking the train for like 1 or 2 hours out of Oslo, you can use it as a base of operations for doing really cool day trips in the region as well as seeing the city itself. I would 100% recommend adding in a trip to Tromsø. I've just posted a video about my time there. In the winter time you can see the northern lights, but any time of year, do yourself a favour and drive around the surrounding area and islands because it's beautiful. If you really want to adventure, then you can head to Svalbard. It's part of Norway, although far north of the mainland and within 1,000 kilometres of the North Pole. Grab a domestic flight and get a taste of life in the extreme Arctic, but it's much easier to get to than Antarctica. You do need to travel to Bergen by train as well because it is one of the most beautiful train rides in the world. If you want to see the fjords and the coast, I'd recommend landing in Bergen or Stavanger, renting a car and driving up the E39. Takes you up the entire western coast with some really stunning visuals along the way. What about culture and important things to know? Norway does have a few quirks when it comes to buying booze. You can only buy beer, cider at a max of 4.7% ABV alcohol in the grocery shops. They also stop selling alcohol at 8 PM on a weekday and 6 PM on Saturdays. To get stronger, like wine or spirits, you need to go to Vinmonopolet, which is open until 6 PM on weekdays and 4 PM on Saturday. You cannot buy alcohol on Sundays except in bars and restaurants. So grab a bottle of wine at the airport duty free. Most shops close on Sundays, so it's a great time to visit museums, while some museums are closed on Mondays. Try local food, including local specialities from farmers and breweries. There are tons of them all over the country. And fish lovers rejoice. The fish and the seafood in Norway is incredible and forms the backbone of Norwegian cuisine. Other local dishes include waffles, cured meat and reindeer, and definitely try the king crab. Accommodation. I mentioned this earlier, but if you're thinking of camping, Norway has something called Allmannsreiten. This essentially means that both citizens and visitors to the country have the right to pitch their tent anywhere for free for up to 3 consecutive nights, providing that they're at least 150 metres away from any building that someone lives in or their garden. Now, if camping isn't quite for you, you want to book a hotel. You should probably know that if you book a double room at a hotel in Norway, be prepared to enter your room and see 2 twin beds that you requested pushed together with 2 separate sets of duvets and sheets. I love it, some people don't. The type of accommodation I'd recommend for your Norway trip really varies depending on if you're on a short stay versus a longer stay. So if you're on a short stay, definitely go with a hotel. Breakfast is included, there's 24-hour check-in, and you have amenities. For longer stays, you might want to consider an Airbnb. I use Plum Guide, but you do get more flexibility, but then some of these have turned into their own kind of nightmare. So sometimes it's just an option that you might want to think about and not necessarily a suggestion. How about money and tipping? Norwegian currency is the krona, and the current conversion is £1 is 13.5 krona, $1 is 10.5 krona, and €1 is 11.5 krona. What about tipping? You don't need to tip in restaurants and bars. Some people like to round up, but it's not required or frowned upon if you don't. You probably won't need any cash, but it is a good idea to have some from small purchases from independent businesses. So let's talk packing and what to wear. So packing essentials coming right up. Remember the Norwegian motto, there is no bad weather, just bad clothes. Come prepared and pack proper gear with good hiking boots and a warm jacket. Pack for 4 seasons in the summer, and in the winter, ensure that you're packing cold for the cold weather with lots of layers, particularly if you plan on chasing the northern lights in northern Norway, where you'll be outside at night for long stretches. And what about your budget? Yes, Norway is on the pricey side, but with street food, gems, and strategic planning, you can have a blast without breaking the bank. If you want to keep your costs down, eat street food. You can regularly snap up a meal for as little as £7 or $9. Kebab shops and pizzerias offer meals for like £10 to £12 or $13 to $15 per person. Otherwise, you can expect to pay around £20 to £25, $25 to $31 for a main in a mid-range restaurant. It is expensive. Beers, wine, and cocktails are also pricey. Think £10 to £13 for a pint of beer, and don't expect to be paying £50 or $65 for a bottle of wine. But accommodation isn't too bad. So you're talking £120 to £250 for accommodation in the mid-range. But tours are definitely expensive. For example, on my recent trip to Tromsø, tours were around £130 to £200, which is $165 to $255 for tours like the Northern Lights and the Reindeer Experience. You do have great mobile coverage across most of the country, so you're pretty much always connected. There you have it, travellers, your ultimate guide to conquering Norway like a pro. Amazing sights, insider tips, and a whole load of adventure away. Subscribe, like, and comment with your own tips and questions. I'm Juliana from The Discoveries Of. Keep discovering, and I'll see you in the next adventure.